Okay, we are live on Facebook. So, Thomas, full discretion. I'll be admitting people. So if it looks like I'm pausing or I'm in the middle of a question, or that I'm just being slightly distracted on all these pop-ups.
All right.
Okay, so welcome everybody. We are on Facebook Live and we are here on Zoom today. Thank you for joining us on the Mayor's Town Hall series. I say mayors with an S because I have some incredible guests tonight. We tonight have all three other mayors here of Santa Cruz County that I'm so honored to call friends and partners. And just colleagues in uniting together on just kind of giving back to our community. So it is my true honor to first welcome Mayor Myers from Santa Cruz, Mayor Dutra from Watsonville, and Mayor Derek Tim from Scotts Valley. And I'm Yvette Brooks, and I'm the mayor for the city of Capitola. Just a couple of housekeeping before I introduce our moderator, a couple of housekeeping items is if you're on Facebook and you are trying to comment or ask questions, I am not going to be able to see those. I am not that cool in technology, so I do not know how to do that. So you will have an opportunity to make some comments here in the Zoom, but again, I won't be looking at those either. I'm so sorry, but I might be able to look at them afterwards. So if you want to put in any questions or in your email, feel free to do so. And then our extra special guest tonight is my friend, Thomas Sage Peterson of Speak for Change podcast and the owner or I know you have a much more fancier title for your music business, and I'll let you get into that
Yeah.
in a second. But thank you so much, Thomas, for being here and helping me facilitate this tonight's conversation.
No, it's an honor. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Yvette.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to hand it over to you to ask us all the fun questions and things that have been on your mind. I know you posted it on Instagram and your
Mhm.
personal Facebook page of what the community wanted to ask us. So I'm just going to hand it over to you and sit back and relax.
All right, all right. I'm gonna be honest. It's an honor to be in front of all y'all. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited to get to know you all better. So just to do that, I just kind of want to go around and ask a couple of get to know you questions. So these are a couple questions I usually ask on my podcast. It's near the end, but I kind of threw up the order because this is a different scenario. So the first one is, do you have any quotes that you live by or think of often? And then the second one is, what is something that people often get wrong about you? All right. And so we're going to start with Jimmy because we made that agreement.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you asked me like what quote do I live by?
Yeah. What quote? Do you have any quotes that you live by or think
I
of often?
do. That's really crazy because I always tell I always say you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So I
Mhm.
always live by that quote. I don't know where it came from. I think it may have come from Devil's Wear Prada. I don't know, but it's like it came from like something funny. But when I heard it, I was like, oh wow, and it's right because usually when people meet you, they're gonna always remember that first time, and they're gonna judge you on that first time they meet you forever. And
That's true.
so I try to live by that. Like you don't get a second chance for a first impression.
Oh
So
man, I love that so much. No pressure though.
what was the other part of the question? I
And
didn't
then the
remember.
next one is, what is something that people often get wrong about you?
Oh gosh, what do they get wrong about me?
Hmm.
Oh my. Well, being in this business, it's I think people always love to sometimes jump to, some conclusions about who you are, but I think
Hmm.
that um, hopefully those go away once they meet me. So I don't know. I'm a pretty. I feel like I'm approachable, so I don't know.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean,
I don't know.
that's
Let me think about that, and I'll come back.
it's fine. It's fine. It's a hard question.
It
All
is a
right.
hard question.
We're gonna go on to Donna. I'm just gonna go in order of who I see. So we're gonna go on to Donna Myers here.
Let's see, a quote that I think about. I would say, don't start something that you're not going to finish. That would be something I think about a lot. So easy to get distracted and start lots of cool stuff, but it's all, you got to get it over the finish line. So, you know, maybe a windy path that you have to take to get there, but you know, that's something I think about a fair amount. So, you know, just making sure that you sort of walk that path and try to get, you know, may not be exactly what you thought it was going to be when it's done, but you gotta lean in and get it done, and, you know, stick with it.
Oh, yeah.
And let's see, what was the second question, Thomas?
It is, what is something that people often get wrong about you? Dun, 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 dun.
They often think I have brown hair, but that's definitely not right.
It's a good answer.
Actually, a lot of people think I'm a lot older than I am because I have had gray hair since I was 25 years old. So, and
That makes sense.
Jimmy's catching up finally. So he's about 26 now. So, but yeah, but I won't tell you how old I am, but a lot of people think I'm a little older than I really am. So.
Oh man. All right. That was a good answer. All right. Derek.
Yes. So I don't know if it's a quote I live by, but it's a quote that people tell me I live by, if you know what I mean. So they always say, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 15 minutes, but it's going to be great. Because I'm easily distracted, and I'm just going to be doing fun things and trying to finish them. To Donna's point, is that keeping the important things on target and keeping them moving is always important. But I do live by that quote. Absolutely, it's true of me. As far as what people get wrong about me, names are important, but and it's not a big deal. People always, they'll ask, "What's your last name?" And I'll say Tim, and they'll look at me like, "What's wrong with you?" I said last name.
Oh yeah. You do that.
Yeah. So that happens a bit. So that's fun. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, I have an employee like that. His name's Alexander Oliver, and so I accidentally keep calling him one or the other. It's a bad habit. It's a very bad habit. All right, Yvette.
I was literally trying to Google right now inspiring quotes because I don't have any. So I'm sorry. I've got nothing for you on that one.
Do you have anything? Do you have any kind of sayings that help motivate you personally, like getting up in the morning, or like going about doing your day, or when you're just in your everyday?
I always think I just got to keep hustling, like it's a hustle,
That's
right?
a quote.
And so, every day I'm hustling. There you go.
You sure are, Mayor.
I'll write that one down. And the one that people I think get wrong about me is that I'm like mean, that I'm like really a mean person. So that's like a weird one for me because I mean, I guess sometimes, but that's because I'm a mom. I have to be a little.
Oh man. All right. Okay. So now we're going to get into it. First question that we're going to do is, I kind of regret not asking this question, but is there any examples of you being influenced or inspired by other cities in Santa Cruz County, policy decisions or actions that influenced your policy or action? And what are those policies? What are those actions? Have Donna, or have you been inspired by Yvette or Jimmy, by Derek, by any actions that they have done in policy decisions? Yeah, so we'll start with Jimmy.
I guess I'm first again, but it's okay because I have a lot to talk about this topic.
We made this agreement.
But yes, I do remember seeing Santa Cruz fly the pride flag or have it up, so that inspired me to work to get mine up, and then eventually Capitola did it as well, and soon Scotts Valley, and then also, I actually look towards Santa Cruz when they're dealing with their homeless issues. I look at the policies that they're creating. I also look to them for their, some of the issues, because we're about the same population of the size of cities. So I really look to them on, some of these bigger issues that we're kind of facing that are the same. not that I don't, you know, and then when I think about restaurants, and I think of Capitola. So, you know, when it was brought to me earlier, you know, about the build outs in the roads, in our roads. That's something that I've, you know, I thought of Capitola, or actually spoke to the mayor about. So, and so these conversations do start because of other jurisdictions. So I definitely do think of them. Absolutely.
Do you communicate with them at all, or do you just like observe what they are doing?
I'll
Or
ask questions. Yeah, no, I've asked Donna questions, and so you know, about certain topics that that have come up that, you know, we're kind of facing in our community.
yeah,
You know, and so uh, you know, just because in another one is, you know, we're all coming back in person. So
hmm
you know, kind of I was, you know, I've asked around to see, you know, when are people coming back, so that you know, we're kind of unified. You know, because
yeah,
I hate to be like, well, you know, one community be like, oh, we're, you know, you're not back yet, you know, you're being asked to um uh you know, you're not back, but this, you know, Capitol is back. That's weird. Right. So
yeah.
but you know, the governor kind of made that easy on us, because he just, you know, said that come at the end of August, I believe, September, beginning of September, we all have to be back in the chambers. So
Yeah.
so we're headed back.
That's awesome. All right. Donna, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you know, we really looked at, I think Watsonville took action on tenant protections right away, right out of the gate when COVID hit. And so I know we looked at their ordinance, and I remember watching their council meeting, because we also realized that we had to, you know, that tenants were going to be affected, but also the landlords were going to be affected. You know, I mean, it was sort of a double whammy in a sense. And so we looked at their language, and, you know, I watched their council meeting and deliberation on that, and we tweaked ours a little bit on that. Also, I think we all watched Jimmy, you know, really bring COVID home to all of us. We were not experiencing what he was experiencing in his city. And so, you know, hearing him talk about the struggle to get families and folks who really needed access to vaccinations made me much more aware of that, and, you know, helped me understand, you know, working with Kaiser when they landed in Santa Cruz and opened the big vaccine clinic, to make sure that our outreach folks, you know, who work with our disadvantaged, you know, with our neighborhoods who maybe aren't English speaking, that they, you know, that they knew Kaiser was opening and there was a clinic within walking distance and all that. So, and we did a lot of work just with Kaiser then and there. So I think sometimes we in North County kind of, we weren't experiencing what Watsonville and South County was experiencing. So Jimmy taught me a lot about making sure that we looked everywhere for what we needed for our communities, everyone in the community. So.
Yeah, I hear that. And do you ever have do you have the experience of being able to share resources between cities, or is that a thing? I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Is there, you know, so I'm asking Donna, right? you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
But
that's why it feels so hot right now.
Yeah.
You know, we oftentimes don't share resources per se, but, you know, our staff talk to each other all the time, you know, and so like one city may start doing something, or maybe one of the city attorneys start doing something. And so we take each other's, you know, we take a lot of that, I think, public policy and, you know, our staff's work, and we sort of, we share that, you know, I think the 4 cities, at least at the staff level, really work really well together. And there's always a lot of group think going on, you know, how do we approach this? But you know, we don't have any like formal sharing. We as a city doesn't. We may have more work maybe with the city of Scotts Valley in the future, you know, on some items, but, you know, not formally right now.
Cool. Well, thanks, Donna. All right, Derek, same question.
Yeah. So I'll say one of the really amazing things is this group of 4 people you see here. We really have teamed up to work together and try to be collaborative, and we were meeting weekly there for a while when COVID was really bad, just sharing experiences, sharing like how to get our community through it health-wise, and best practices, what to do, how to pivot, how to help our businesses, how to, and we were learning from each community. Well, what's working here? Can we steal that and use it here? Can we, you know, how are you getting people to, you know, vaccinate? How are you getting, you know, and we all had the same goal, which was the health of our entire region, right? And so it's been, and I'm not just talking about physical health, it's the mental health, it is health of our economy, and it's taken a team. And so, and to Donna's point, city staff, they do work behind the scenes and talk with each other. And, you know, of the cities that you see here, you know, Santa Cruz has the biggest staff resources. They have the biggest budget. And so tiny cities like Yvette and Mayor Brooks and our city, we really have limited resources to develop policy. And so we do look to them and say, okay, we see you're doing this, and we watch what they're doing and help kind of, we'll unfold that. And then our cities, I mean, Capitola and Scotts Valley are pouring up. We're actually sharing staff members at some, you know, we have the same person going out doing building inspections for each of us.
Yeah.
And so it does come down to that in our cities. But I really value this team, and not everyone in the wider community knows how well they have worked together as a team to get the community through. But I've been proud to be part of it. I've been really proud to be part of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you think this whole cool group, because I came on this call, you guys just had this great rapport going on. So I'm just wondering, is this like a rare thing, or is this have other mayors done this before?
I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is how it should always be, but people have said it's not always like this. So
yeah, a lot of people have commented that they have never seen this before. So
Yeah.
I have to recognize Yvette and her work and really pulling us together and just, you know, really creating some really wonderful things for us to work on. So, you know, I mean, it does take a leader, and she's been on it. But it's also, we've just developed a wonderful, we're just buds. It's great. It's cool.
I think we totally just click. It's great.
That's awesome. All right, Yvette, your turn.
Well, I paid them big money to so, you know, to your question, Thomas, I literally will say to staff, what are the other cities doing? And I mean, that's always the first question. I'm like, what's Santa Cruz doing? What's Scotts Valley doing? Where are they on this? And so some of the things like we've collaborated on was, I mean, a couple of years ago when I first started was a dedicated children's fund. How are we funding kid programs within the city? I see Derek laughing because we were looking at some partnership and I put an X and A on that. And so that's been another day, another time, Derek. So
oh man,
the other kind of a code of conduct.
It's rough. She's not mean though.
The city of Santa Cruz had developed a code of conduct, and that was something I wanted to bring forward in to our city, and I was able to look at what they were doing. Some of the kind of bigger, most recent collaborative efforts is with the bike share, and we're looking at that through all 4 cities and partnering on that. And then Santa Cruz County is tapped into to each city and is having all of us work together on a new housing initiative, and where the dollars are funneled through the county, but we all have agreed that we will work and focus some of our resources at the city level on housing. And it's a big task, but every city has adopted that resolution and has agreed to partner as well.
So with that housing initiative, what does the commitment look like for each individual city? Because I know you're saying you're funneling through the county, but
yeah, it's really new. It was actually brought to me at our last city council meeting. So there's definitely a strategic plan that was developed, and they're going to be piecing it out, at least that I know of. I'm sure everyone has different tidbits of information, but it's just rolling out. And so the first step where we're at is, okay, is everyone buying in? Is everyone committed? Are you as an entire council agreeing that we're going to focus some of our energy? And so that's where we are in the early stages of this new plan that the county is rolling out.
Hell yeah. Well, it sounds exciting. All right.
Very exciting. Yeah.
So we're going to move on to the second question here. So you guys came into your positions around December, right? You know, so 6 months ago. So that was coming out of like CZU fires, right? I know Scotts Valley probably knows a lot more about that, and Santa Cruz. I mean, we all did, right? Political unrest, the BLM movement, Black Lives Matter, and all with the backdrop of like COVID-19, right? We were already wearing masks, all that stuff. So when you came in, it was kind of you already knew about COVID, right? You already knew about the social unrest, the fires. I think they must have been calmed down by then. Yeah, they were calmed down by then, but left you guys with a lot of issues, right? So what are some policies that you were pushing in the beginning of those 6 months, and how have they evolved over the time of your tenure? And we'll start with Jimmy.
Love you guys.
I love it.
So, for me, when I came in, my full dedication was to my community directly, and it was for the vaccine. We were not, the vaccine wasn't getting down to South County. I was really putting a lot of pressure on our friends up north to, really help get, the vaccine down to Watsonville and to South County, because that's where a majority of the deaths were happening because of COVID. We had the highest COVID rates as well. We had the highest death rates. COVID affected our community disproportionately than the rest of the county. So I was really, really, really working hard on that. I mean, it was, we then opened up a couple sites. That was a big focus for me when I came in. Though I did recognize, we were going through some, social unrest and fires, and there were a lot of other things going on around me, but directly facing our community was the COVID vaccine, the COVID pandemic. However, we are currently dealing with a community where we have a policing committee, and we're looking at the future of policing in Watsonville. So that is currently happening. You asked for the first 6 months. The first 6 months was vaccine, and it seems like right now we're really deep into this policing committee and the future of the department in Watsonville.
So you're saying in the first 6 months, like in December time, you were focused on getting vaccines to South County, because I think, was that the time they were distributing vaccines to the cities?
No, the county was still controlling it, and so
Okay.
so what they would do a lot of times, they were giving it to like Sutter or Dominican to administer.
Got it. And so that was your main goal through those 6 months for policy.
Yes, absolutely. We were, the health of my community was priority. So I was really working hard. Of course, I worked on other things. We have a lot of other issues that we deal with, traffic and, speeding and no parking, and we want speed bumps in our community, on our streets. And, dealing with those issues, as well as, homelessness. And, there were a lot of other issues that are facing, but as a mayor, we got to be able to multitask. And I think that, my biggest concern was, getting the vaccination down to Watsonville. But, I did work on everything else as well. And thus I am tired, right? So
and so, the policing committee, what inspired that?
So that was initiated by the past mayor, the mayor before me. And so the committee was created. And so I took over as one of the 3 positions on the committee, as the mayor, and then we have 2 other council members. So and then so it's the committee it ends in August, I believe, and then there will be recommendations to our city council from that committee if there should be any changes at all to our policing.
So do you actually agree with the committee? Because you're saying that it came from your predecessor, right? So, is this something that you actually believe in, right? That policing committee?
Well, it didn't directly come from me,
Yeah.
but I believe in social justice. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to look at what is best for our community and see what decisions we can implement, if any, to move forward. So, I believe in the safety of our community as well. So it's a real balance.
Yeah.
So, and people may think it's a black and white issue, or it's really easy to make decisions on, and it's not. It's we are put in these positions where we have to balance and make the right decisions that will benefit everybody in the community.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. All right, Donna, your turn.
It's hard when you know the question and then
Yeah.
your turn's coming up. No, it's a good question, Thomas. Yeah, it's funny. The year before, it just sort of blended right into December, right? And I kind of felt like when we hit office in early December, obviously the news on COVID was just bad, right?
Yeah.
Getting worse, right? And also recognizing nationally there was like no plan at all, and so really coming in December, we knew that our businesses were going to be shut down again. All of our hotels were going to be shut down. People were going to have to be basically quarantining pretty much again. We had some scary information coming out of the county, that we were hitting these levels that were really unsustainable for the community as a whole.
Right.
So it was intense. It was really intense that, and so for me, I was working with these guys, this was my team, along with our city manager and all of our city managers, obviously Gail Newell and Mimi Hall and their team, Carlos Palacios, the county staff. And we did every Friday, I think it was every Friday, we had a COVID call, and it just kept going, and we kept getting more details and trying to just, we weren't in charge of like a lot of the operational sides of what was happening, but we just had to try to keep our communities as informed as possible. So coming out really coming out of the holidays with very little business availability, we immediately turned to really understanding what our businesses were going to need into the future. We started looking at commercial tenant protections. We started to try to, focus on helping people get their outdoor dining things set up as efficiently, as effectively as possible so they could get open. Also, praying on the election turning out the way that we all needed and knew that was happening, and getting through January 6th, which we thought would be more like January 20th. But the other thing we really worked on was, right away in December, we started meeting with our federal and state electeds and letting them know, here's the condition our city is in, and we also met with the League of California Cities, which is a statewide organization that was immediately helping cities with legislation fixes and funding and all of those things. So, immediately we wanted to describe to our federal and state electeds, it's like, this is how much of a hit we've taken. This is what we're looking at. We wanted to get our employees off furlough, so we were advocating for federal dollars to come as quick as possible. I immediately began working on some homeless policy, looking at what the state might be doing, trying to obviously unravel some of these large encampments that started because of a guidance from the CDC. But those encampments had created really unlivable situations for people, and we had conflicting policy, and so that grew into a larger effort around really defining, how people can be sleeping and safe in our communities overnight, and so that kind of took off into a whole policy effort. Again, getting something over the finish line. So there was a lot. There was a lot. Yeah. There was a lot of suffering. There was a lot of confusion. There was still a lot of fear. And so to me, it was pivoting towards really understanding what people needed. Where do we get the money, and what do we need to do right away to try to, alleviate some of the suffering that I was seeing, physically in people who were living in encampments. And then we also had a big push that, thankfully didn't turn into a big disaster, but we were very focused on the potential for really extreme flooding in the city of Santa Cruz if the mountains had unraveled in the way that they predicted. So we were working to make sure that Caltrans was ready to clear wood off the bridges, and so just a lot of kind of really in the moment kind of thinking in that first like 3-4 months. So
Right.
yeah, I'm tired too. And my hair turned gray. We have to be brown.
Yeah, that's a lot of policies around. It seems like at least homelessness, and you were saying how to help like commercial leases. And so did you get policies passed through to help with commercial leases and stuff like that?
We did.
Awesome. And how did those kind of evolve to where we're at right now? So in the moment here, like where did those policies end up happening to at this moment? And then where are you kind of wanting to go with
Where we
future
heading
now
back?
that we're opening up, you know?
Well, a lot of cities were passing these these ordinances to protect both, residential tenants and commercial tenants. And I think those really helped, the governor took note, and then also being able to produce the data that could show how far people were behind on their payments, whether you're the landlord or the tenant. I think it was really effective in how the governor kind of put out some really important policies, like in March and April, which was, is COVID still going to keep raging, or is it going to calm down, and what is the damage to people and families? So, his sort of forgiveness of rental rents, things like that he kind of put in the spring were really important to kind of stabilize things. So I think, truthfully, we lost a lot of businesses downtown. We had some landlords that just were not going to be helpful, which was really sad to see. It was really sad. And we lost some longtime businesses in downtown Santa Cruz. And it really, so many of those businesses are right on the margin. And we just, we lost 17, 18 businesses in downtown. So, and some had been there for over 35 years. So it was really, really, it was really damaging. And, but I think being able to just do that protection work right away was, I can't help but think that the governor was watching those kinds of actions, where local cities were stepping up and saying, we're gonna take these actions. Most of his executive orders mirrored what cities were doing, or cities could basically get under that coverage of the executive orders. So, so I think, just acting locally, really made a difference. And I think cities really stepped up and said, we're going to protect our businesses. We're going to protect, renters and homeowners, and as much as we can. We don't have the money, but we're going to set the policy, and hopefully the state and feds see that. And I think some of that, I have to, hope that it reflected in state and federal policies. But so I think we were on top of it, and there'll be more to do. I think we're still going to be kind of understanding, like, really where all the impact places are. It's going to take a while to sort through how much impact is where, and where are the places to most strategically put our funds to help people now.
Well, thanks, Donna.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So, Derek, you're up.
Yeah. So, I could recount a lot of the same things that Jimmy and Donna said from our city's standpoint too. I mean, we were, all of us, and I think one of the reasons you hear them both saying we're tired is because for those prior to this, we were all in the vice mayor role, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were going through all the things in this role last year as we were hit with it. And then you came in, and then you're sitting in that mayoral seat, and you're responsible for the health of your community. And we're in the middle of an emergency. And we had been in the middle of an emergency for months, and the emergency suddenly had gotten worse, right? So we're in this emergency mode, and every week, and you hear that term pivot, we all talk about it this year, it's like overused, but for us, every week it was figuring out, okay, what do we need to do different this week to deal with everything that was being thrown at us?
Yeah, what are some examples of what you had to do weekly?
Well, during the fires, right? Yeah. We were when the fires really hit for our city, we had our city had never been evacuated, right? And then it was, how do you get people home safely? And then what do you do for the community members in San Lorenzo Valley that lost 950 homes, right? And how do you, what is the how do we help as a city with those families? And what do our churches do? And what are our resources that we have as a community? How do we help provide? And so, you're going through that, and then you find out other things that happen after the fact. And on that same vein, we had our biggest park in Scotts Valley became the base center for the CZU fires, right?
Yeah.
And so, but what you don't realize by parking, fire trucks with, thousands and thousands of gallons of water in them, what you end up with is not a playable soccer field, right? So as this year comes around, it's like, okay, how do we fix our fields? How do we get our kids back out playing? How do we, and then along with all of that on a weekly basis, you're watching the city finances. And last year it was like, as Donna was saying, it was like a yo-yo. And it was like, oh, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? We don't know. But all the information was it was going to be way worse than we expected. And as you look at the long-term budgets now, I mean, our city, we don't have a huge budget, but our total losses from COVID are going to be around $8 million over the progressive period of it. And, we're getting $2 million from the federal government, which is great, but it's not going to fill those long-term losses that our city's going to feel, right? So, you're constantly revising your budget. You're constantly reacting to all those issues that are arising for your community around it, and employers and employees. And so exhausting. And now we're moving into what I feel like is a healing mode, right? And we're focused on, okay, look, times are a little better. We can start focusing on the projects that maybe were interesting to us a couple years ago. We had our first meeting. We've been focused on our town center prior to the pandemic, and boy, that took a back seat, right?
Yeah.
So now we're able to like dig back in and things that we're excited about for the future. And it's been hard to focus on the future when you're focused on the now, right?
Yeah. Sounds like you're in healing / wanting to get back to the projects you were wanting to do before the pandemic, right?
Right.
Like now that things are opening up, it's, it's weird, going out and feeling all that energy of people waking up and like, going into a store without a mask, I'm like, man, didn't realize how much a mask made a difference to someone's face too, Like,
right.
It's just in general. But yeah, I mean, that sounds hard. It sounds hard. Yeah. So thank you. Just to give a little disclosure, I kind of have to keep things brief. I'm so used to, I run a podcast, so I'm used to just like letting people and me talk for days. So I have to kind of keep things a little bit brief, and I'm reminding myself out loud that. So,
But that was your nice way of saying, don't take forever answering these questions. Is that what you're saying that, Thomas?
I guess.
As
Well,
you come to me.
Yeah,
too.
as I come to you.
Brevity, Mayor Brooks, brevity.
I'm so used to I get 2 minutes to speak, so I'm trying to stay under my 2 minutes. Like, my head.
No, so I get
Put the clock up. Put the Zoom clock up.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh! All right, so Yvette, your
I don't
turn.
want to answer anymore.
Oh man. No. Go ahead. Do you?
You know what? When we all came on, there was legit civil unrest, like Mayor Myers said, with the presidency, and then locally in our community, and there was just a lot that we all walked into, and there was this moment of like, we need to move forward, and how do we do that, and all this fear. And so things like updating our community grants process and expanding Parks and Rec and all these things that I wanted to do, and look at our police policies and all of these fun projects. It was just, like Derek was saying, put on the back burner because we needed to focus on economic development and looking at ways to allow our businesses to stay open. We had to look at supporting our families in the city of Capitola for all of the essential workers and somewhere to have their kids go. But the I think reality hit when I had a call, and calling Mayor Tim and being like, "Are you okay? Are you being evacuated? What the heck's going on? Donna, is Santa Cruz on fire? What is happening? I mean, Jimmy, what do you mean you're not getting vaccines? Like, what's going on?" And so when we talk about coming together, we had to come together. We were forced to come together in a moment of crises.
Mm,
And you know, we're now at this pivotal time where we're talking about opening up, and there's still legit fears. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and we all have had the opportunity to talk with the Santa Cruz County Health Department and in becoming resources for our community. I mean,
yeah.
I really think that's what our ultimate tasks have been over time, where we're not the specialist, I'm not the expert, but tell me everything we need to know so I can get it out to the community as fast as possible. And what we've learned is that our boundary lines have merged, right? Because
Yeah.
all of this stuff, the civil unrest, the COVID fires, the injustices taking over our BIPOC community, and all of these things has just blended us more to work together. And so it's, you know, moving forward, I think my goals are to just continue that work and those conversations, and creating safe spaces. And I'll end later on about a way we're doing that in a fun way this summer, but I'll talk about that at the end. So
All right, Yvette, can you give me an example of a kind of policy? Because I mean, that sounded beautiful. I mean, that was that was amazing. I mean, the unity, forcing you guys to get together through this turbulent time, is like is a beautiful sentiment. So, is there an example of some kind of policy you had coming in with that inspiration or with that passion that you know evolved over time?
you know, I can't say there's been little wins, right?
Hmm.
I've had little wins in finding funding locally here in you know, I'm an advocate for the children's programs and things like that. There's little wins, but like Donna said, we've also had this opportunity to tap into state and federal funding and really expressing our needs for the community. And so it's not necessarily a policy I created, but
Hmm.
it's creating a COVID recovery fund and just
Yeah.
putting funding aside to say, listen, we didn't know if it was going to get worse before it got better. And I didn't want to see any more of our employees furloughed. So I suggested that we put funding aside just in case. It's like the mama bear in me that's like, it's our insurance policy, right? Because we lose our staff, no one's going to be running these cities. I mean,
Yeah.
we are the representatives at face value, but it's the hundreds and hundreds of people who keep our streets clean and bills paid and lights on. And so if we're not supporting them and not being mindful of them, we're going to be in real trouble. And so that's something that I was able to lock in, at least in the city of Capitola. And I know there's different recovery funds that each of these cities did in different capacities. So
Mm, love that. That's beautiful. All right, so here's the next question. So this one is, I guess, personal to me.
And
So
and Mayor Tim will start off.
that was not the agreement. No, I'm just kidding. So you know, as we know, during this whole year behind COVID has been, you know, after George Floyd's death and Ahmaud Arbery's death, there's been like a lot of civil unrest around, you know, Black lives, right? And what has come out of that has been, with modern technology and different things, is that we're starting to see more and hear more of the Black experience that maybe we weren't, or not we, but like most of our institutions weren't aware of, most of the population were not aware of. So with that Black experience coming to light through modern technology and movements like Black Lives Matter, has that changed or influenced how you see your role as, you know, mayors, as people in the institution that has historically, you know, oppressed Black communities? You know, has that shifted anything inside of your mind of like how you view your own role and your own experience here? And we'll start with Jimmy. Easy
I didn't
question.
get out of it, did I? Okay. Absolutely. I mean, I think that Will Smith had this really great quote that I think I saw. He said, "This isn't something new. It's just now it's being recorded."
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're dealing with, you know, just centuries of, you know, of unjust, you know, differences between the Black community and basically everybody, the rest of the country. And I think it's important. I mean, I think it's finally the conversation has started. I think for so long the conversation was always being pushed to the back, and people weren't willing to address it.
Right.
And I think because people are being seen now and really pushing to have their voices heard. I really think that whether it's uncomfortable, I'm sure for a lot of people, but it's a conversation that needs to happen, and there needs to be changes, and actions need to take place. You look at a lot of where a lot of this police brutality is happening, and it's in communities where the police officers don't look like their community. And so I think it makes you, if you should sit back and reflect and be like, okay, well, we should maybe change that a little bit, and start bringing some Black voices into PD, in whatever those cities are. So I just think that I think a lot of us, like I talked earlier, are having these conversations. We're creating committees to talk about it, and to talk about the future of policing.
So what I'm curious about is your personal relationship with it. So like, what is your relationship with this, these Black voices and experience? Has this changed anything in you personally? Like, and what has it changed within your own perspective of the world?
Well, I always try to think that I'm a open-minded and thoughtful person, and I mean I've been lucky enough to live in major cities where I have a lot of Black friends, and so I don't. I mean, I'm not having to, really alter my view of like what I think, of my friends.
Yeah.
But what I think needs to happen is I'm like, okay, we need to start working on a lot of other people, and that's the problem, right? I mean, we need to change the dialogue, and so hopefully, in the conversation that I'm having in our community, we can move that forward. We don't have a really large Black population in Watsonville, so I think a lot of times people they can't connect because we don't, in the high school, it's mostly Latino. We have a lot of Latinos, and I'm Latino as well, and so it's sometimes people will have a hard disconnect because they are not put in a situation where they know the people that are being oppressed, even though we've been oppressed in a lot of ways as well. But so I think that it's continuing to create the education within our with starting with our youth. As a teacher, one of the first things I do I teach middle school, I teach a cultural studies classes. They learn about Martin Luther King. We learn about Selma. We watch Hidden Figures and learn about the women that were breaking barriers, back in the day, so that there could be a voice in the Black community, beyond what people try to create these stereotypes, right? And so so those are the conversations I'm having, and I'm already implementing it within my students, and they have to, I require my students to write papers about Black people who have inspired them, and so I think that that's what it takes. I mean, I think people need to step up and do that, right? And I'm trying my best to do it, and I'm open to any suggestions. I'm not a perfect person, and but I know that in order to create a unify people, that we have to have these conversations, and we have to be okay with these uncomfortable conversations, because a lot of times they're uncomfortable. So
Right. No, I hear that, man, and that's good work. And so out of just curiosity, this is just like a curious question. Why do you think there's not as big of a population of Black folk in Watsonville?
well, I think for the it's a large agricultural community, and a lot of the farm workers, they have come from Mexico, so it's a lot. It's been decades of
Right.
of people coming from Mexico to cultivate our the Watsonville, the agriculture in Watsonville. So
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason you know, I don't, I've lived in LA, I've lived in New York, you know, so I've been able to really experience something different than, you know, probably a lot of people that live in Watsonville, because I've been able to live, you know, in a really diverse group of people. So,
Beautiful.
and I try to bring that back in my leadership. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I feel that everything I've done outside of my community, wherever I've been in my college and my getting my master's in LA and all these things that I've done, I try to, you know, bring the lessons learned back to my community. And one of it is, you know, definitely through, you know, how we treat people. And
Love that. All right, Donna, you're up.
No, that's yeah. I mean, you know, I feel like truthfully, I feel like I'm a witness to all of this, to this amazing work that is happening. And so, you know, I feel like there's so much exciting work that, you know, Justin Cummings and Sonia and other leaders like you, Thomas, and many of the people who really have centered around the city of Santa Cruz as a place to grow a movement is very, very exciting. And but to be honest, I've tried to be a very quiet but helpful witness when asked. I'm very respectful about what the growth and the direction and the experience that you all need to acknowledge and teach and bring to our you know, to our community, and for us to help for it to help us understand more about why things have been going on, you know, the things that have been. I mean, I grew up in Sacramento, and I grew up in a much more diverse, you know, environment than I've lived in Santa Cruz, even though I've been in Santa Cruz for a long time. So, you know, I'm excited about some of the events this weekend. You know, and I really appreciate really letting the community just grow in the way that you have been, looking at whether it's things the city should be doing better, policy that needs to be decided, you know, inclusion of, you know, new ideas. I love that every day when I go to City Hall, I see the Black Lives Matter mural on the street, which is super cool. And just an acknowledgement. But to be honest, I feel like my role is to be a witness to all of this right now. And when I understand, you know, the activities that need to happen, then we take action, be poised for action and go, you know. But I think there's just so much healing and communication and other things that need to happen right now. There's a building that's happening, you know, and there's a healing that has to happen. And that's, I can watch that, but I can't necessarily be part of that. That's not my experience, you know. And so I want to be respectful about being a witness to it. But I am very excited to see what is happening. And you know, it just sickens me, everything that it's, you know, the brutality of what we've seen, you know, and continues is just, it's disturbing as someone, you know. It makes you question a lot about the United States. And there's always been those questions, but and to see true fear in people's eyes, which is also not okay. So that's kind of where I'm at, you know. I think that's the most honest answer I can give you. You know, I wish I had more examples of, you know, diving in to do this, that, or the other thing. But, you know, I really I'm just quiet witness right now. That's what I'm doing.
You know, and I understand that, you know, and I'll give you like a little bit. I won't talk too much. I'll try my best. But, you know, as someone who, you know, I'm biracial, but I'm identified as Black, right? But I was raised in a white family, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of this sense of, you know, we don't want to talk about race. That was kind of the time that I was raised in, right? We don't want to talk about race. And, you know, hearing you, I hear senses of like, you know, it reminds me of conversations I have with my mother. You know, me and my mother went back, you know, we were, you know, me and her are super close. You know, we were like, he's in pod. She's like my white mama, who everyone's always like, how's this your mom? You know, so weird conversations like that. But it's, you know, it's interesting because I think a lot of times we like to put, you know, and I'm not blaming anyway, we like to put the pressure on the Black folks to educate people, right?
Mhm.
And you know, it's tiring, right, to do that, to constantly be educating people, definitely with modern technology like Google and anti-racist books everywhere and all these different things, right? The resources are there. And so as much as I hear this like witness that you're talking about, you know, have you ever thought about, you know, really trying to become an ally amongst, you know, the movement, you know, really, you know, figure out where your privilege is and be able to use that to help the Black community? Hope that's not too personal a question, but that, you know, I'm a curious person, you know, but have you ever thought of doing that? Because, you know, it's, you know, being a silent witness, that's one thing, right? But that's not what we need right now, right? We don't need a lot of white silence,
Okay.
you know, but we do need, you know, people to step up as being allies, you know? So I'm just curious, have you ever thought about becoming an ally? Have you done research in that? And it's okay if it's no. I'm just
I have. Yeah, I have. You know, I mean, I'm familiar with the term ally because I'm gay. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
we have allies in our community as well.
exactly.
I have, you know, and I'm looking for that place of where a meaningful, you know, ally, you know, action is, you
Right.
know. So I'm looking for that, you know, and I have, you know, I have looked at it. Do I know that path, or, you know, have I begun to walk on it? No, I haven't, you know. Uh, I'm still learning. I'm still
Yeah.
learning. I mean, I hate to say that, you know, and I
There's
hate
nothing
to
wrong with
burden
learning.
you with education, but you know, that's kind of where I'm at, you know,
Yeah.
and I just try to come at it from a place of humanity. And if, you know, that's all I can offer, you know, at this point in time, because I want whatever you know, whatever action I'm doing, I want it to be meaningful, you know, and I need to learn, you know, I need to
Yeah.
hear from folks who are experiencing what they're experiencing. And, you know, I had to do that for some of the things that mattered in my life, you know,
Right.
from who I am. So
Right.
that's my experience right now.
Beautiful. Thanks for going there with me, Donna.
Sure.
All right. Derek, you're up.
Yeah. So in Scotts Valley, right? I'll talk about Scotts Valley and then I'll talk about me. But we had not had any marches in our town since the Vietnam War. And I didn't know that. I heard that from other people in town. And so there was,
Wow.
I would say there was a general trepidation, you know, going into the first BLM march that we had. And I participated in it, you know, and I walked down the street with folks, we walked through town, we sat and I think people that were, you know, scared to participate or didn't understand what it was about. I didn't fully understand myself going into it, to be honest, right? But what I heard when I was there were some really great stories.
Yeah.
And when I say great, I mean they moved me, right?
Yeah.
What I learned was not great, right? And but listening to those stories, if you're open to hearing it, right, it's very impactful. And so for me, and I don't say my internet connection's unstable. Hopefully you can hear me okay. But,
You're good.
you know, okay, good. So for me, it was there was one gentleman named Brandon who got up and he told his story, right? And he was a Black man, is a Black man. He didn't identify really with the Black community, right? He said, I don't understand Black Lives Matter. And he then told his story. It wasn't until he had a personal experience with a run-in with the police that he understood what the movement was about, and understood why it was important. And he had always said, hey, you know, he was a brilliant guy. He was an engineer. He, you know, if you've got an iPhone with you, he made some of the parts for that. He's got parts in the Mars rover, like brilliant guy, but he disassociated himself with the community.
Yes.
Right. but then you heard his story, and when he was laying on the ground and surrounded by police in front of his house, right, because of his color, that was a light bulb moment for me, right? Because those two things don't connect, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I've had, for me personally, my wife's a person of color, right? She's Latinx. Both her parents are from South America, and there were, there's a whole exploration that we've gone through as a couple this year, and she as an individual, and for her, she's actually working on a book right now because for a large part of her life, she hid who she was, right? She could play off as white, right?
Yeah.
And she chose to do that, but in doing that, it made her life a lot harder in a lot of ways. She couldn't be authentic, and it wasn't until she started showing up in her job as the person she is that she really started succeeding. And you don't have a choice, Thomas. You look black to me, right? You may have had a white mom, black, but she had that choice, and she sacrificed some of herself in doing that. Yeah. And so she's telling that story now, and it really resonates with me. Allyship resonates with me, and so I am trying to be in my role. I push our city to try to. I'm pushing DEI initiatives that haven't been pushed there, but I'm doing it in a way to bring the city along. It doesn't need to be a fight; it needs to be an education. So yeah. So So that's my journey.
Love that. Thank you for going there. I appreciate that, and it's these are the conversations we need to have. In the future going forward. Because I think that's how change happens. That's the beginning of it, right? And then the policy and all that. So, what kind of things are you pushing? Just out of curiosity to kind of help with this equity issue.
Well, I mean, so right out of the gate after the marches last year, we came to our police force and we asked them to review their use of force policies, and also we wanted to know what the equity looked like as well, And they came back with reports. They made changes to some of their policies. Those were immediate and tangible things you could do, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also education, and I helped get money into our actual city budget around DEI training for our city staff, for our police department, for our council members. And it's one thing to say I support it. It's another to say, okay, as a city, we're going to put money behind this. Right. And so, and that wasn't something that was there before. And I'll say just within this group, this is really cool. Jimmy, so I loved hearing the story that Jimmy told earlier, because Jimmy said, he said that he was inspired by Donna to fly the pride flag in Watsonville. Right. And so this is how change happens. And so he then called me one day and he said, hey, Derek, can you fly the pride flag in Scotts Valley? And I said, I don't know, let's do it. And so I call the city, and the city manager said, well, we don't have a policy. So, but what that did for me was I then put on a proclamation in support of Pride Month, right, which we did last night. And I don't know that our city's done that before, right? But I also have asked the city to work on a policy so we can fly a flag other than the American flag on our city. But awesome. That has to be supported by the council. But again, that's how the change happens, right? And it's really cool within this group of 4 people that discussion happened and how that works its way through cities, right? And so, anyway, those are some examples of things we're doing.
Thanks, awesome. Thanks for bringing that back to the connection of the mayors here. And and so, Yvette, you're up.
What's the question, Derek?
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
But no, I'm kidding. I mean, Thomas, you and I've worked together on, this last couple of months, and for me, I'm creating space. I am paving a way for our Black community members to get involved, to have a voice, and I am a tool. I want to be utilized in any way I can to uplift our community members' voices. We too had never had a march through our city, and it happened, right? Like there's just things, I mean, hearing all of you talk today, I have literally goosebumps, because this is a hard question to answer. You could see everyone like this is weird, and it's weird because we don't talk about it enough, and we don't know how to respond, and we don't know the right way. I mean, Thomas, I just called you about a response I wanted to make, and I'm like, what do I say? How do I say that? I need your help. But that's what's exciting right now, that we're all doing this, that we're having these openly, and it's two-way, right? It's a two-way conversation, and we're putting it in a space that feels safe. And I think that's another reason I've asked the mayors to be here today too, is to create this safe place where we can have this open dialogue. And so some of the policies changes that the city of Capitola, I asked that the implicit bias training be required for all staff, all council members, all commissioners. I've asked that the police department is only required to have such trainings every 5 years, which is a joke to me. And so we're requiring that as well on a regular basis. We're, just like Derek was saying, we're putting money behind that. It's allocated, it's required. There's no questions about that. Looking at I asked our police chief to look at all of the policies so policies are reviewed internally through the police department. And my question that I asked, or I posed to them, I said, well, which ones go out to the community? They're like, well, none. I'm like, why not? They're like, I don't know. We never talked about this before, right? So I just said, go back and just look at all our policies and let me know which ones you think should have gone to out to the community. And honestly, I thought it was going to be like 2 or 3, right? Like everyone would assume that there are just a couple. They came back with over 25 policies that they believe should have had community input for whatever reasons. And like, here we go. Here's a starting point of how we can start having community buy-in, where we can start having conversations, start really listening to what's going on the rest of the world, and how we can be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. I don't want an event to happen in our community or in our county where we need to just react and then create policy afterwards. We're seeing what's happening worldwide and throughout the country especially. And so let's start building some space for that and start these dialogues now. So
that's inspiring, Yvette.
Okay. You inspire me, Thomas. You inspire me. I just want to say, I just feel like I have like armor on, right? I feel so safe with the community and what the group is doing, what you're doing, what I see Tyree on here, what he's doing. Like I just feel like there's some armor. Like we're all being pushed to challenge ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a good place to be. And it just gives us an opportunity to make those changes.
Oh man, that's beautiful. And I love, the thing about doing this work, it's really, I think in the long run, right, it's a positive. You're going to be bringing so much diversity into your communities and your world. It's just, we see it in the art community, right? When the arts open up to different types of different arts, it just becomes better. Everything just becomes better. We see it in the sports community. If you look at the history of basketball, you can see that whole world open up. And yeah, thank you for that. I'm gonna try not to.
Also, too, like important, like it's okay to be uncomfortable. These conversations aren't meant to be like, cake. Let's do a, cakewalk. These are difficult conversations, and if we're feeling uncomfortable, that means that that's when change is happening.
Yep.
Change happens when you feel uncomfortable. So, it's okay to feel uncomfortable. That's all I have to say,
That's going to be my quote.
Yeah.
That's my quote.
Yes, you have one. You have a quote.
Oh my God.
Can I take that one?
Oh, all right. So here are the last 2 questions.
I have to leave though, really quick.
Oh, these are fun questions.
Like 15 minutes left. Okay.
You can answer. I guarantee you'll answer them fast. They're fun questions. These are the fun questions. We're going to end it.
Thank God, Thomas.
No, all right. So first question is, because we're coming to an end here. So what is your astrology sign And do you resonate with it? And if you had a power animal, what would it be?
Oh.
Okay. Oh, am I going first still, or
Oh yeah, you're going first.
order? Okay. I'm like, are you gonna change the order on me or what? Okay. I'm a total Sagittarius. I fit my sign perfectly.
Yep.
So if you're a Leo, we're buds. If you know, like, there are some of my really, really strong signs that I draw to. But and they say the Leo. See, now I think maybe I want to be a Leo. They say the Sagittarius is the life of the party. So I like to be the life of the party. And the last question was,
if you had a
mine's
power
really
animal.
generic. It's really generic, but
That's
I'm sorry about this. A lion. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's
a
super
good one,
generic,
man. It's a good one.
but I think in the Chinese calendar, I'm the year of the lion too. So maybe that's why I resonate with it.
I don't think there's a lion in the Chinese calendar.
Oh, wait, tiger. You're right.
Tiger, lion, whatever.
Thomas,
Yeah,
I am here to check to make sure you're on your toes. So there you go. You're right. And they are completely different animals from completely different continents. So yeah, but I'm not a tiger. I'm a lion.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
I went to Africa. I was, my dad has passed since, but my senior year in college, he said we went on a trip to Africa, just me and him, and it was life-changing. It was life-changing. And I just feel so connected, and it's so it was funny because you drive by in your little cars, and the lions would be just laying there on the ground in these safaris. And they were like, never stick your arm out of the car, because even though they look friendly, they will rip you out of that vehicle, because they'd just be laying there chilling, and you're like, oh my gosh. So I don't know. I was really always attached to a lion, and you could be chill one moment and then not the next.
Oh man, I'm kind of scared with that description of a lion, and that's what you resonate with.
Right?
It's all good, man.
Mayor Dutra, but I know you have to leave. Do you want to share with our audience your event for the Outside the Frame before you go?
Thank you so much. Yes, my event is going, the four of us, we have this event of Out of the Frame, which is amazing. We have these local artists that have contributed to it, and I hope you can all join me. I'm going to be doing a mayor's walk, so you can all walk with me, and we can meet the artists that have done the 5 frames. So I will be doing ours on June 26th, which is a Saturday. And okay, pause 1 second, because my calendar is crazy, and I know I have multiple events that day, so I think it's 10 a.m. in the morning, but let me just check really quick. I think it's 10 a.m. Whoops. June 26th. Yes, 10 a.m. We're going to meet in the plaza, downtown Watsonville. We will walk from frame to frame, and we'll hopefully talk to the artists that did each frame, and just have a community event. So I look forward to all of you being there, and thank you for having me here this evening. And my door is always open. In these COVID days, my Zoom is always open. So, please just reach out for any questions, and I hope to see you there.
Awesome.
Mayor Dutra.
Great. Thank you. I love you all. Honestly, you 3 mayors, I mean, you complete me. Thank you. And Mariah, thank you for all the hard work and effort that you put into this. I mean, there's been so much, and Nick for the videos, and I mean, just thank you for everyone who's been part of this and helping us look good, right? So it's because of you guys that we're able to put this event on. So thank you. Mariah, I hope to see you there on the 26th.
I'll be there, but I just want to give props to Charlie Campos, who designed the press.
Oh, and Charlie, absolutely. Charlie, thank you. Local Watsonville artist. So thank you, Charlie, for all that you have done for our community, and we look forward to unveiling this. I mean, I just got the chills just saying that, Charlie. So there you go. Oops, my little screen vibrated. So anyways, I will talk to you guys all soon, and I will see you on June 26th.
Hi,
Bye, everyone.
Meet you.
Back to you, Thomas.
Okay. All right.
Baton to Donna.
All right, Donna.
So I'm an Aries. I'm an Aries, true and true. And what would the animal one was?
Mhm.
The animal you most identify with?
Yeah, it's a power animal. So it's like what an animal that inspires you, right?
That would be the sea turtle.
Oh, I like it. Why
Yep.
is that?
Because it is one of the few animals that was here when the dinosaurs was here. It's still all the way back. So longevity, just quiet grandness. You know, you never, no one really has ever heard a turtle say anything. And they just I think just with the longevity, just the wisdom and the understanding of change, and they just are a very calm and but yet regal being. I spend a lot of time in the ocean, so I've spent countless hours watching them and sitting on rocks, staring at them and what they do, and it's pretty amazing. So I just find them to be amazing animals, and their longevity really inspires me. So that's my power animal for sure.
Love it. All right, Derek.
Yeah. So I'm a Libra, and definitely, I've always been about balance and fairness, and even my career choices have always taken me that direction, right? I just want to be someone that brings people together.
Yeah.
So so I definitely identify with that. Power animal. I don't know if it's my power, but I think the honey badger is awesome. So.
Oh man, you went there. You went there. All right. All right. That's a dissonant combination, a Libra with a honey badger for a power animal.
Yeah.
That's like
yeah, go explain that one, right?
Relentless. All right. So Yvette, you're up.
That literally brought tears to my eyes. I'm a Sagittarius, and Thomas, you're a Sagittarius too, right?
Yep, through and through.
And so I only read the horoscopes that read Sagittarius like me, so the ones like in the newspaper I don't agree with, but the one in the Capitola Times Sagittarius is for me. It just depends on which one you read is how I identify it. And I have no idea what the animal. Your questions, Thomas. I don't know what my power animal is.
You're welcome.
I'll Google it. I don't know.
You don't have an animal that you just like?
Can I still a whale? I like whales.
That's a good animal.
Good animal.
I don't. No, I love animals. I don't want anyone to think I don't love animals. I love animals. I just don't.
We don't think you're mean either.
Okay, good.
Oh man. Well, you guys, that's the show, right? That's the end of it. It was great meeting you all, and Yvette, thank you for doing this. It's an amazing
there's something
thing
about bringing humanity forward through your elected officials and just kind of reminding everyone that we're human and that we really care. I'd like to use this last minute. Mariah, I know you're on, and I would love for you to wrap us up with the announcement of our mayor's event, if you don't mind.
No problem. What a lovely opportunity. Thank you. Well, I am just so honored and humbled to be working with all four of you, as well as our county parks department. And you all really had just an amazing sort of foresight to reach out to us, early this year and look forward and try to imagine an experience and an opportunity and something that could really be a shared experience across all jurisdictions, which is just a an incredible invitation. And so what has culminated based on Charlie Compos's design for art out in parks is Outside the Frame, opening in all 4 cities, either this weekend or next, in each city, featuring 5 different artists who live in that area, and really inviting everyone to come outside to enjoy these beautiful places that belong to all of us, and to have sort of a healing experience, have some fun, some joy, and some connection. So it's been just a pleasure, and it's really exciting. They're all coming together right now, and they're going to be so beautiful. So thank you for the opportunity.
Tell us the organization and the website, where to find more information.
Absolutely. So we are County Park Friends. The website is countyparkfriends.org. And if you go there, you'll just click on Art Hikes, and it'll take you to all the different art installations in our parks around the county. They're free, they're accessible, and they're there to help all of us heal coming out of a very difficult time.
Love that.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you to the mayors. Thank you to Thomas for facilitating such a fun conversation. And thank you to all our viewers. Thanks, Mariah, for hopping on. I didn't warn her folks, so thank goodness she was available. And thank you to our audience and to our community. This is just such an interesting time. And I just want to ask for all of you to create space and patience in yourselves and in your community as people navigate coming out of COVID and mask wearing and new regulations. And we're all different. We have all different stories to tell and lives to live. And we're all doing this together. So just be mindful of that as we carry on the next few weeks here and as we emerge into this new time. And I look forward to seeing all of you at our events. Thanks again to Mayor Tim and Mayor Myers for all that you do, and our other fun Mayor Dutra, who had to step away. So have a great night, everyone, and I appreciate all of you so much.
Good night. Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Thomas.
No, thank you.
Bye-bye.